Hey everyone, I'm Adam Haritan from Learn Your Land, and in this video we will be featuring, no surprise, another wild edible mushroom. So we're approaching late fall here in western Pennsylvania. Many people may have already hung up their mushroom baskets for the year. Maybe they already did that back in May when the morel season was over. But many edible mushrooms can still be found, and in fact you can still find mushrooms or at least signs of fungal activity in January with a foot of snow on the ground. Maybe not choice edible mushrooms, but still fungal activity. And even in February with 2 feet of snow on the ground, you could probably, if you just pick up a stick or look at a log, you could probably see maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different species of fungi just on that stick or log alone. But luckily it's only late November right here, and we can still find some edible mushrooms, including the one we'll be featuring today, which is Panellus serotinus, the late fall oyster. Some people call it greenback. What we're going to be doing in this video is focus on identification, some of its lookalikes, edible properties, and this is a big one, medicinal properties, because this is an often overlooked, first edible mushroom, but medicinal mushroom as well. And there's a lot of research on this one. So if you're unfamiliar with this mushroom or you've only brought it home to cook it up, you might be interested in some of the medicinal research on this as well. So stay tuned. I know you're going to learn a lot. I know you're going to have fun. Enjoy this video. Panellus serotinus, the late fall oyster mushroom. This has been shuffled between different genera over the years. It's been placed in the Pleurotus genus, which houses the common oyster mushroom. It's been placed in the Sarcomixa genus, but the current accepted name is Panellus serotinus. So it's in the Panellus genus, and serotinus means late fruiting, late flowering. So this is an appropriate name for this particular fungus because this one fruits in the later half of the year. September, October, November, December. If you're finding an oyster-like mushroom in April or May, it's probably not this mushroom. If you're finding one in July or August, it's probably not this one either. So what is this mushroom doing in the woods? And I like to talk about its role in the woods before we actually get to the identification. Because if you know what it's doing, you're going to have a much easier time finding a fungus like this. So this is a white rot fungus. We've talked about many white rot fungi throughout many of my videos. Turkey tail is a white rot fungus. There's several other white rot fungi as well. This isn't the only one. And these are the most important and the most effective lignin degraders of woody plant tissue in our forest. So that means you're going to find this on wood. It's not going to be coming up out of the grass. It's not going to be coming up out of the leaf litter unless there's buried wood. And it could be growing on deciduous wood or conifer wood, but I typically find it usually in forests that look like this, so mixed woodlands, mixed conifers, mixed deciduous woods. This mushroom, unlike the common oyster mushroom, Pleurotus ostreatus, shows shades of green, yellow, sometimes even purples, but it's typically a yellow, green, orangish color on top, especially when young, and you don't see that with the common oyster mushroom. It's typically much more rubbery and tough in texture as well compared to the common oyster mushroom, but it can be roughly the same size, so up to about 4 inches. It doesn't typically get bigger than 4 inches. This one's a very small cluster that I found, and this one has been allowed to grow a little bigger, so this one's about 4 inches across. This one's maybe only 1.5, 2 inches max in this particular specimen right here. When you flip this mushroom upside down, you're going to see that the gills are somewhat yellowish, and this is important. It's not pure white, and it's not orange either. So in the oyster mushroom, you're going to see that the gills are pretty much white. There's another species we'll talk about in a second that has orangish gills. These ones are yellowish gills, almost tannish in appearance, but it's typically yellowish. And the gills run completely down the cap of the mushroom, like you would see in the common oyster mushroom. So it goes completely down, and then it hits the lateral stalk. So there's a little nub at the end of this mushroom, a little stalk, and typically you'll see there's almost like a line that separates the gills from the stalk. And the line is somewhat yellow or orangish. And this stalk can be somewhat hairy or velvety in appearance as well. And this is going to attach it to the wood. The spore print for this mushroom is yellowish as well. So if you're unsure about this mushroom, just take a spore print from it. And if it's yellowish and all the other characteristics align, you know, it's greenish, it's yellowish on top, it's got yellowish gills, it's growing on wood, that it probably is Panellus serotinus, the late fall oyster mushroom. Depending on who you talk to, there might be anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different lookalikes for this mushroom. But we'll just focus on maybe 2 or 3 because really, this one's very, very easy to identify. It's a safe mushroom to harvest for the table. We already went over one lookalike, which is Pleurotus ostreatus, the common oyster mushroom. If you're unfamiliar with that one, check out this video that I released not too long ago. I go through that one in detail. Again, that one's typically whitish, brownish, grayish on top with whitish gills on the underside, drops a white to sometimes a pale lilac spore print. It's edible anyway, so not a bad mistake to make. Another one you might confuse it for is the mock oyster, which is Phyllotopsis nidulans. That one is orange. And remember before I said make sure it's not orange underneath, doesn't have orange gills, because the mock oyster has orange gills. This one, Panellus serotinus, has yellowish gills. The mock oyster has orangish gills. And smell that one. Actually smell any mushroom that you find, because they're all pretty unique. But the mock oyster has a somewhat foul odor, somewhat sulfury. There's another mushroom in this genus that you find pretty frequently out here, and that's Panellus stipticus. That one's much smaller, it's got gills, it's typically brownish, tannish, and it glows in the dark. So this one does not glow in the dark. Other than that, this is a very easy to identify edible mushroom. You should have no trouble as long as you go through all those characteristics. Take a spore print if you're unsure. It's going to be yellowish for this one. As I mentioned before, this definitely is an edible mushroom. Not too many people might consider it a choice edible mushroom, but come on, it's late November. There are edible mushrooms out, we'll take it. And so this one might require a slightly different processing method compared to some of your other edible mushrooms, even like your common oyster mushroom, Pleurotus ostreatus. Because this could be somewhat tougher, and it can also be somewhat bitter. To deal with the bitterness, just taste it in the field first. Bite it, chew on it, and then spit it out. If you detect bitter flavors, it's probably going to be bitter when you bring it home. Harvest another cluster, taste it, chew it. If it's somewhat mild, then it's probably going to be mild when you do bring it home as well. So taste it first in the field before you bring it home. Now, as far as the toughness of this mushroom, you could tell whenever you feel it. It's somewhat rubbery, but also that means whenever you put it in your basket and you pile other mushrooms on top of it, that it's not going to break down as fast as maybe some of your other delicate choice edible mushrooms that you'd be putting in your basket. So it'll make it home in one piece compared to some of your other mushrooms. That's a plus for this. But that plus can also be a disadvantage because it might be somewhat tough when you cook it. So just employ longer cooking methods compared to some of your other mushrooms. If you're going to simmer it a little longer. If you're going to saute it a little longer. What you can do is simmer it first and then saute it. And if it is getting tough towards the stalk, which it tends to do, you can just feel that, just cut off nearer to the margin and just use that. But cook it up, you can cook it up any way that you do like your mushrooms. Just remember to employ a longer cooking method before you decide to eat it. So not only is the late fall oyster an edible mushroom, but it's an often overlooked medicinal mushroom as well. So this has been used in Japan, and it's known as mukatake. And worldwide, there's a lot of research being done on the late fall oyster. In 2013, a journal known as Lipids and Health Disease found that supplementation of this mushroom was beneficial for the inhibition of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So this is a pretty serious condition characterized by fat deposits in the liver for reasons other than excessive alcohol intake. And this study was done on animals, but the researchers concluded that the results are very applicable to human beings as well. This condition, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, is the most common form of chronic liver disease in the United States and affects between 80 and 100 million Americans per year. And I wonder if even one or two of them know about the late fall oyster mushroom or even hunt for mushrooms. So if you know someone who's experiencing this condition, maybe share with them this video, or even better, take them mushroom hunting. Another study from 2012 in the journal Mycobiology looked at different extracts of this mushroom and found that hot water extract, so just making a tea out of this mushroom, was effective at pulling out immunomodulating beta-glucans. So beta-glucans are polysaccharides with glucose as the sole monomer unit, and structurally beta-glucans comprise about half the mass of a fungal cell wall. And so when you look at the research on beta-glucans in human health, you see that beta-glucans are notorious for their immunomodulating properties. So what does this mean? It means stimulating the immune system or depressing the immune system, helping to regulate it, depending on the organism's needs. So hot water extract was effective at pulling out these immune-regulating beta-glucans. Not only that, but hot water extracts also showed anti-tumor properties as well. So this study found that extracts from this mushroom, especially hot water extracts, both had immunoregulating properties and anti-tumor properties. So let's look at this. We've got an edible mushroom that not only is it edible, not only does it taste pretty good, not only can be found later in the year, but it's a medicinal mushroom as well. Meaning, even today, in the 21st century, even with all the atmospheric pollution out there, even with the 23 million pounds of synthetic chemicals dumped into our water supply every single year, even with all of the neurodegenerative herbicides being poured out onto our crops, not even poured out onto our crops, but then fed to human beings as well. Even with all of that, even today, it's still possible to let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. And it's really easy to implement this whenever you explore the fascinating members of the fungal kingdom, including this one right here. And if you don't believe me, try it. Might not make sense today, might not make sense 2 years from now, but maybe on the first day of the 5th year, it'll all make sense. Thanks for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. As always, head on over to learnyourland.com, sign up for the newsletter at the bottom of the page so that we can stay up to date with each other. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay up to date with all the videos that I'll be releasing in the near future. Thanks again. This is Adam Haritan signing off from the woods here in Western Pennsylvania, encouraging you to be wild, be free.